Hey everyone, welcome back to ML Works. In this video, we'll learn how to build a podcast summarizer using Python. So we'll be following a series of steps, including downloading a video from YouTube, and then we'll be using another package for extracting the audio from the podcast and saving it as an MP3 file. And once you are done with that, then we'll be using models like Whisper to extract or transcribe the text from the audio. And next, we'll be using another model to summarize the text. So let's get started with this implementation. So first, you have to install these packages, which includes YouTube Downloader and PyDub for audio segmentation or extracting the audio segments. And then we'll be using transformers for using the open source models, including OpenAI Whisper Small, and then we'll be also using DistilBart. And then we'll use Torch, which is the prerequisite, and dataset is also a prerequisite. And we'll also install .env for loading the environment variable into our runtime. So we'll also require something called as API key from Hugging Face. So we'll take it up and store it in env file. That is a simple step, and I guess you will be aware of it. So once you have installed these packages, then you have to import these packages here as done here. So if you see here, right, I have already executed these steps because each step takes quite a good amount of time. So to avoid making the video longer, what I'll do is I have executed everything. Only thing is we'll understand how you can implement the same in your system. So once you have installed the packages, you have to import the packages as done here. First YouTube Downloader, then audio segment, then transformers pipeline. So let me run it again. This will take less time now, okay, since it has already been imported. Now once you have imported all the packages, you have to pull the environment variable with the help of .env. So we do that with the help of this step. And once we have done that, then we have to connect or log into our Hugging Face environment or account with the help of login. So what we do is we take our token and do login token is equal to your token. So I have .env file here somewhere. So if you see here, I have .env which contains my Hugging Face API key, and I'm importing that here and using it for logging in. So once that is done, let me see if I have to run. Yeah, so let me run it again. So now we are done with the setup aspect. Now what we have to do is we should start with our podcast summarizer. So first thing is we have to take the URL for which you want to get the summary of. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this podcast, Lex Friedman's conversation with Norman on World War II with talking about Hitler. So this is the URL for that. So I'm just importing it. And then what I do is I use YouTube Downloaders, YouTube DL, and pass the URL. If you see here, I'm passing it here and running it as YDL. Okay, this will download the podcast into your local machine, and this will take around some few seconds. It is around 9 seconds because based on the speed of your internet. So I have already downloaded it. Its name is, let me see here. It is podcast.wwm. Okay, that is the format. So once you have downloaded the video, what you can do is you can just do audio segment, which is PyDub from PyDub, audio segment dot from file, and this is the video file that we have. And this is sent to this audio segment, and we extract the audio and we save that audio as MP3. Now you can see that file here as well. That is podcast.mp3. It contains the audio segment from the podcast. Now, since we have completed like segmenting the audio and saving it as an MP3 file, we'll be turning that audio into text with the help of an ASR model, which is automatic speech recognition model. And for that, we'll be using transformers pipeline, and where we pass the task first and then followed by the model name, which is OpenAI's Whisper Small. And then we pass this parameter as well. So once you have initialized the model, then you can go ahead and extract the text from the MP3 file. So this is very simple step, and once you have executed, this will take around 40 to 50 seconds. So I'm not going to run this. So the transcript will look like this. Since I already mentioned, the podcast was on Lex Friedman and Norman, and it was about Hitler. So this is the conversation that has happened in that specific podcast. And now what we want to do is we want to summarize this text. So what we do is we can go ahead and use this specific model here, which is the step 4. So let me uncomment this. So if you see here, this is one way of summarizing the text where you can use this specific model. And since I have a GPU and which is already using ASR is being loaded there, I will be moving to CPU now. And then the task that I want to perform is summarization. And once I have initialized the summarizer with the help of this pipeline and where I have mentioned the model and the task, I can just pass in the transcript and what is the maximum length it has to output the summary, right? What's the maximum length or minimum length should be, and should do the sampling or not. Okay, so then I'll be generating my text. Now the problem is this specific model, right? It has a maximum input length of 1024 tokens. Now that is not possible. This number of tokens that we have here is much more than 1024. So what we have to do is we have to turn it into, we have to use tokenizer and truncate this transcription. And once that is done, then we have to pass it to this specific model. So let's stop this, or if I just want to run this, right, you will see an error probably. So yeah, if you see here, right, the index of out of range, because the maximum, the input sequence length, right, whatever we are sending, it has a length of 1762, which is greater than 1024, which is accepted by this model. So what we have to do is we have to truncate your transcript or tokenize them such that you can pass it in terms of batches. You can send the input, get the summary and combine them together. So that's what we'll do now. So let me clear this cell's output. So here we have something called as model name, and we have maximum input length that we want to truncate, right? 1024 is the maximum length of each sequence, and the overlap that we want to do is 200 tokens should be overlapped across the sequence, and the device that we are going to use is CPU. And then first we initialize the tokenizer to transform our text into tokens, and then we use the model where we pass in the same model name which was been also passed to tokenizer, and then we map it into what device, which is CPU, and we want to store this model in float 16, which will reduce the size of the models. Now once that is done, right, the model declaration is done, what you have to do is you have to chunk your transcription that you got from the audio and then summarize it. So you have two functions here. First is chunk and summarize, and then we have final summary. Now chunk and summarize will, as the function name says, you have a transcription which is larger in size in terms of number of tokens. What you have to do is you have to split them into chunks and then you have to summarize them. It will take in the text, which is the transcript, and then model name, the tokenizer, what is the maximum length it can have, and the overlap, that is 200 is our token size for overlap. Now input IDs that will generate from the tokenizer, which is here, that will do. And once you get the input IDs, then we create the steps for number of steps it has to run through the transcript. And then we'll have determine the number of chunks needed, which is based on the steps we have. And then we'll be storing everything chunk summaries inside the chunk summaries. So here we'll be iterating through the chunks and we'll be generating the summary IDs and getting appended to the chunk summaries. So these are certain parameters that are required for generating the summary from the specific model. So at the end, what we do is, since we have a list of chunked summaries, we combine them with the help of this specific line and we get our output. So if you see here, what we do here is finalize summary. We pass here is again the text, the model and the tokenizer, and here we get our input IDs, and then we send that input IDs to the model.generate and get the final summary, and then we decode that final summary here with the help of another tokenizer command. Here we make the call to chunk and summarize, where we pass the podcast transcript and the model and the tokenizer. Once you get the meta document, you get the final summary here. We just print the final summary here. So if you see here, you will see it is talking about, I see most of the officers of the Wehrmacht has not necessarily Nazis in the way they would shout Hail Hitler all the time. They are highly intelligent, highly trained super professionals that ran a very effective war machine. But at one point, more and more of these generals realized the orders that Hitler were given were not really helping, and they have their men dying because of it. And he also talks about the movie Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan. It's not good because it does not describe what happened on the German side. So this is a pretty good summary for what we have for a 9-minute video of this specific podcast, because the amount of text that gets generated in 9 minutes is quite huge, and we were able to shrink that and get that insight in less than 120, I guess, or 200 tokens, I guess, right here, maximum length, 200 tokens, or 500 here, final summary is 500 tokens. So yeah, this is how you can build a podcast summarizer, where you have Whisper Small for transcribing the text, and then you have another model where you can generate the summary. The only thing, right, one more question. So this is happening because we have a model which has a maximum input length of 1024 tokens. If you have a larger model, which is capable of generating, or which is capable of taking more than 1024 tokens, then you can go ahead and use it directly here. You don't have to write the script at all, because it will directly understand the whole length of the transcript, and then it will be able to generate the summary for that. So with that, we'll be concluding this video. Thank you for watching.